Hello and welcome to the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. We are live on newstreamingnetwork.com, home of goingboldmedia.com, goingsolomedia.com, and WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am your co-host Judy Forder, and I am here with my co-host in peace, Miss
Kris Burke. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to, oh, wait a minute. If you like the content that we're putting out, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to support our mission even further, please go to peacefulempowermentworks.org. Check out our mission statement. And if and when you feel moved, please feel free to hit that donate button and continue to support us getting the word out that peaceful empowerment truly does work.
Yeah, it does.
And today we are here for part 3 of our Making It Real series. This is the final part, and we are going to discuss the framework for lasting change.
Mm-hmm.
The framework for lasting change.
Yeah. So I just have to say, you know how you always say we're live on da 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 da. Just because I'm who I am, I always think, I wonder if on the other side we'll be like, "Hello, we're dead on." On the old streamingnetwork.com. Like I just had to say it one time. And then
we're coming to you dead from the weebedone.com. No.
Yeah, because it's just funny that we always say live. It's like, because honestly, yeah, we're live right now, but when you watch this an hour from now, we're not. I mean, right? So it's just a funny thing.
But we are not live.
Yes, we are still alive. Yes.
So maybe that's what we should change it to. We're coming to you alive. Alive.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something to explore. I shall make notes.
Yes. Remember, guys, there is purpose in this. Laughter is very good for us on our journey.
Absolutely. One of the quickest ways to raise your vibration.
It absolutely is. Yeah. And we're talking about some, we always talk about challenging things. And hopefully we've kind of made clear by this point that the more challenging, the bigger the opportunity. Right. So if we can navigate our challenges, if we can look at whatever is challenging us and we can go into it asking questions and looking for a different perspective, a different way to look at it so that we can feel at peace, then the opportunity for a better experience, richer connections, more meaningful life work, less stressful, more abundant money flow. It's all there waiting for us to embrace our challenges.
Yes. And I know sometimes it makes people angry when you say this, but really every challenge is an opportunity for growth and evolution.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is there because there are lessons to be learned. So when we can shift from why is this happening to me to why is this happening for me, mm-hmm. It opens up the door for you to ask the questions and really start to excavate the experience and find where the lesson is. And then you get to decide, do you want to learn that lesson right now or don't you? And whatever you choose, be at peace with that decision. Mm-hmm. That's what we encourage here. This is what the point we're trying to get across. Peaceful empowerment really does work. It doesn't mean that, you have chosen maybe the best option at this moment to serve you, but you're at peace with the choice that you've made.
Right. And there is no wrong choice.
No.
I think it's so important for us to know nothing is wasted in this universe. I think that's something I hear a lot. I'm not even sure where I hear that, but nothing is wasted. So if we decide to stay in a situation that's causing us pain or making us feel bad about ourselves, or, we're struggling or suffering with something, every moment that we're in that relationship, we're learning how much we're willing to take before we say, enough, I'm not taking anymore.
Mhm.
Right? And you might find out that you're really stubborn like me, right? I mean, I got the Queen Stubborn Award. So I can take a lot
Mhm.
before I would say, that's enough. I'm not taking any more. But once I made that decision, I had all of that experience. I had real, tangible experience that said, you know what that is. And you can always choose more of it, but you can also choose something better for yourself.
Mhm.
Right? And it wasn't a concept. It's like I had the life experience that said, you know what this is. Is this what you want? Right? And at some point, inevitably, we all get to places in different areas of our lives where we're like, yeah, you know, this isn't lighting me up. In fact, just going to say, how many times in our lives do we say, if I stay on this path, it'll kill me?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And I know what I see here. I know this experience. Do I want to continue? That was key. Do I want to continue in this? The no, because there's safety in knowing.
Hmm.
No matter what the experience is, you know it, whether it's comfortable, not comfortable, whatever. There's safety in the knowing because it helps give you a sense of predictability.
Hmm.
Choosing something else is very foreign, it's unknown, and it can be very scary.
Yeah.
So, it's funny because when Kris and I were planning for the show, it's like in this framework that we're talking about, lasting change is all about there is no black or white. There's always, that gray area where you're collecting data. And one of the key things Kris said is, if there's an experience and I would have in the past chosen this. So that means I have to choose this. The opposite. No, no. Like Kris was saying, it's about, okay, what did you say? You say it better than me. Zoom in to zoom out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, break it down into the parts, right? What are the things that I appreciate about this situation or this person or whatever it is? Like, what are the things I really appreciate? What are the things that fill me up? What are the things that are working for me? And then what are the things that aren't working for me? Right? Get all of those together and then zoom out and look at the whole picture and say, is this balanced enough for me for now?
Mhm.
When I look at this in the rest of my, let's say you're in a job that bores the crap out of you, for example, but it also pays your bills, right? This is a good example. So it's like I'm bored, right? 9 to 5, whatever the hours are. I'm wishing I were somewhere else. I'm, in Malays, whatever, right? And then, but on whatever payday is, I get to take that money and go pay my bills. And actually, that feels pretty good.
Mhm.
Right? So then you imagine, well, is that a pretty good trade-off for now? Like, let's say you decided I'm going to find a job that excites me, and I'm going to take my time and I'm going to figure out how to have more enjoyment at work, how to appreciate what I'm doing. Maybe I'll enrich my relationships there, or maybe I'll take on a project that's actually interesting to me, propose a project. I mean, there are lots of ways that you might be able to improve that experience, but you're also saying to yourself, I get this probably isn't my forever thing. I'm not stuck here. But if I just make myself stay until I can't stand it anymore, I'm likely to blow up or just one day say, that's it, I'm not going to work today because I can't take it anymore. And then I'm going to end up, what do they call it? Cutting off my nose to spite my face.
Burning bridges.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now, because if you think it's boring being at a job, that you don't like, wait until you're in a homeless shelter. Like, and I mean, I know I'm being overly dramatic, but um sometimes we do, like, sometimes we just smooth over things. We make things look the way we want them to look. Right? So it's like, well, if I leave my job, it's fine. I could get lots of other jobs. Right? It's like, that's a nice concept and it's probably true, but it's also true that it takes time. And if you just get another job in that state because you're under pressure, it's likely you're going to get another job just as bad as this one or potentially worse.
Absolutely.
Right.
Ab-
So taking care of ourselves is more about, okay, what's working, what's not working, and then let me start planning what that next step is going to be. And I'm going to take care of myself along that journey. I'm not just going to jump off and go, let's see what happens now.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because, a lot of the information that I've been getting for the past year or two with clients is that very thing. You never want to search for another relationship, another job, another this in desperate, angry, fearful energy. You always want to be in that place of opening and allowing. And especially in the energy that we're in now, since this crazy ass eclipse that happened, it's it's really, if you're forcing anything, it's not going to happen. We have to sit in that space of, like Kris just said, looking at where it's serving me, where it isn't, where it's filling me up, where it's draining me, and is that balanced enough for me right now in this moment?
Right.
In this moment, and then be at peace with the decision that you've made.
Mhm.
Because in that peaceful energy is where we open and allow things to come to us.
Right. And it's like you said before the show, Judy, so often we think the choice we're making is, do I stay or go?
Mhm.
So if we say, it's working well enough for me right now, we're thinking, oh, that means I'm stuck here, right? We're making a decision. Do I stay here for the rest of my career? That's like pretty much never the decision, right? The decision is this, do I want to stay here another 3 months? Do I
Mhm.
want to stay here another month? I mean, we can break this down as small as we need to until, can I do another month? I went to graduate school, an accelerated 1 year MBA program with two small children, right? I had a 9-month-old and how old is he? Two, and a 2-year-old. And I remember thinking I can do anything for a year because it was a pretty intense, it was pretty intense.
Mhm.
So my husband and I talked about it and I was, yeah, we can do anything for a year. And that was, how we factored that in. But if I had thought about, can I do this kind of routine for, the rest of my life? No, of course not. I mean, that would be insane. It was like, do I think this investment of time and energy and effort and money is going to pay off on the flip side enough to get through the parts that are going to be hard? Because life always has hard parts.
Mhm. Yes, and this brings up the whole topic of, yeah, I can handle that.
Mm.
Okay, but do you want to?
Yeah.
There's a big difference because, I mean, if you're living in this world today, there's a shit ton you can handle,
Yeah.
but do you want to handle
Yes.
all of
Yeah. That is so important because the difference between, oh my God, look at this energy, look at this opportunity I have,
it? Mhm.
right? And yeah, there are some tough things about it, but I know it's worth it, right? The difference between that and, oh my God, I can't believe that I didn't have I didn't grow up with a silver spoon and have people just hand me my education and then I have to do this hard way. Like if I had been in that energy of feeling sorry for myself, I never would have made it through that program.
Mhm.
But I was so grateful that I had the opportunity and that the pieces fell into place so that the impossible became possible. I was just grateful. And that energy, that love energy, right, fed me everything I needed to get me through. I don't remember the year because it was a blur. It was so busy. But I know that I was actively engaged in every area of my life and loving it.
Mhm. You said a key thing right there. You said the pieces fell into place.
Mhm.
When the pieces fall into place easily, that's a sign that the universe is in full support of the decision that you made
Yeah.
because it is serving you for your
Yeah.
highest and greatest good.
Yes. I mean, oh, yeah, and that's such a good point because if I had thought about all of the things that would have to happen, like we had to move, we had to find childcare, we had to come up with some money, we had to arrange things so that we could afford to live without my salary. So there were a whole bunch of things that could have easily gotten away. I could have not been accepted. I mean, there were so many things, and we just, you know, we were like, okay, what's the next step?
That's it right
What's
there.
what's the next step? Okay, now what do we need? And I think we found childcare like a week or two before school started. And it was the perfect, this Irish woman who had 4 kids of her own at this house, and she took great, loved my kids, and she raised them like they were part of her own little brood. So I didn't have to worry about them while I was off at school for the day.
Mhm.
Um, but each piece fell into place. Like even the company that my husband worked for, they had an apartment that was empty that hadn't been used. They weren't doing anything with it. And they were like, well, if you want to live there, and they charged us like $400 a month. Yeah. Yeah. So, and they had some like carpeting. They used to do demolition in office spaces. So they would go in and take out like brand new carpeting from office spaces and that had never been used.
Mhm.
So they gave us the carpeting. So we like renovated our apartment and it was cute as a bug's butt. And it was $400 a month. It was perfect. I mean, it was absolutely perfect. And yet, I never like if somebody had said to me, how much can you afford to pay in rent?
Mhm.
And I'd said $400, they would have said, well, I guess you can't do it then because there's no such place. But there was such a place.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's a big thing to remember. Part of the framework that you want to have your toolbox. You want to remember that things are happening for you, not to you. And you want to gather the data. That's what I call it, gathering the data. What's working, what's not working, um, and really pay attention to what's falling in place, what's coming easily. And when
Mhm.
and you're doing one step at a time. Okay, we have that. Now what's next? Kris was sharing with me what she just went through with her dog because there are a lot of dogs out there that don't like getting their nails trimmed. And patience, kindness, respect. With patience, kindness, and respect, she went from not being able to even have clippers in the room to yesterday being able to clip 2 or 3 of her nails.
Mhm.
And it's changed how their relationship is. It's we don't fully grasp how powerful patience, kindness, and respect are.
Right.
And when we give it to ourselves, it's amazing how we begin to heal and grow and evolve, and we become more willing and willing and willing and willing to allow ourselves to experience new things and try different things. And we become somebody that we never knew we could be.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think there's something about each time you're going to kind of put yourself on a new, more solid platform, right? Maybe it sounds a little funny, but I get the sense that you kind of have to prove that you want it badly enough.
Mm.
So, I mean, at least that's been my experience. I mean, consistently and
Mhm.
still, right? It's like not only do you have to let go of some of your old, but you're also going to have to make some decisions that you might feel, for example, um, a lot of people might say, well, I would never live, in an apartment that was $400 a month, just because you get an image of, what that was.
Right.
Or I would never, this, or I would never that. And the thing is that I think there's kind of it's almost like you have to kind of pay your dues to get to that next platform, and you have to be willing to invest the time, energy, effort, but also to not but, and also to manage your ego. You have to be willing, like you have to be, your soul has to be driving. And when you take these kinds of leaps into, sort of a next level, your soul has to be driving, and it's your ego that says things like, "Oh, yeah, I don't, you know, what would people think?" Or,
This isn't
right?
fast.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. All of those black and white things, like I wouldn't do that, or, whenever we cover our hearts and make a judgment,
Mhm.
that's ego. And the only way that we up level, sorry, ego, but the only way that we ever up level is soul driving and ego saying, I'm there.
Mhm. Yeah, they're meant to complement one another.
Mhm.
They're meant to work together. And ego, because of being in zone 1 and zone 2, has been driving the bus for so long. That's where zone 3, soul gets ego to start sharing the keys, and they start switching off
Mhm.
co-pilots and pilots, and then you get a better feeling. I know for me it was like I could feel when ego stepped forward.
Mhm.
I could feel when ego was then driving my bus.
Mhm.
And just having that awareness. I mean, immediately it's not like I stopped ego. It played through its patterns like it did, but I recognized it. Whereas in the past, I wouldn't even know.
Right.
So being able to recognize, oh, I'm in my ego right now.
Mhm.
And sometimes you need to be, because sometimes you get yourself in scary situations where ego's got to step forward and get your ass out of there safely,
Mhm.
you know? Um, but for me, just having that awareness, like, oh, okay. And then the next step was, okay, let's pause. Do I need ego in defender mode right now? Or is this something that we can pause and allow soul to step forward?
Right.
Invite. I was like, don't allow, we invite.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the more I was feeling the difference between the two, the more I liked, soul driving the bus, because
Mhm.
it felt good. It felt better. It felt clean.
Mhm.
It felt true.
Yeah.
And then when ego would step forward, it'd be like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, because well, we make so many rules for ourselves with the intention of keeping ourselves safe. We not only make a lot of rules for ourselves, but we also adopt rules from our families, from society, and then those ego becomes the keeper of those rules,
Mhm.
right? And so the thing about that is that the ego, the keeper of the rules, becomes so attached to the rules and forgets that they were initially created for our protection. And that if there comes a time when they are not protecting us, but are in fact harming us, it's the rules that should be updated, right? We should not be criticized and beaten up because we're not willing to take whatever the punishment is of staying inside of the rules we made that we thought were going to protect us.
Mhm.
Right? So it's this, wait a minute, who made these rules? The bottom line, who made the rules? We did. We made the rules.
Yeah.
Right? And so if we get to a place where we're struggling and suffering, we want to ask ourselves, are these rules that I made working for me? And if they're not, give ourselves permission to change the rule instead of being looking for someone to blame.
Yeah. Yeah. The I'm hearing the self-sacrificing days are over, people. They're
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
The energy doesn't support that anymore. And every time that we put somebody else's well-being before our own, I feel like I'm just getting slapped in the face with
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, are you going to do that again? All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's there because these patterns are going to repeat until we choose to heal them.
Yeah.
So this is
Mm.
funny because, I don't usually speak so boldly, but if your life is constantly sucking, be willing to ask questions, because you're choosing suck.
Mhm.
You're choosing for your life to suck because you're not paying attention. Be willing
Yes.
to ask
Mm.
questions. of yourself first. Like, what is working? What's not working? Grrr! Yes, we are
Yeah.
constantly going through this. Kris and I constantly going through this.
Uh-huh.
This isn't,
Yeah.
I'm saying this isn't, a one and done. Woo! No, because there are lessons upon lessons upon lessons and layers upon layers upon layers that, we work to heal. Our goal was to give and provide tools for you to move through these things as they come up. We're not saying, okay, you do this and then you're done forever. Mm-mm. In my opinion, when I'm done learning and healing, that's when I leave this physical body and I'm in no hurry.
Right. It's so true. And yeah, and it kind of made me laugh because it's not like, it's not like we're going to fall off the edge of the world. Like we're going to get so healed that we're just going to like, well, you're done. No. Yeah. So I sort of got like, don't be afraid of that. Don't add that to your arsenal of things you're afraid of. But in this world, the way the world works, energy is always moving. We are always growing and expanding, or we are shrinking and dying. That is a fact energetically,
Mhm.
right? You can look at two 60-year-olds side by side, and they can look like completely different beings because one of them is growth oriented, one of them is health healing oriented. I don't even mean physical health, although that is part of it, but I mean they're wanting to feel good. They're honoring themselves. They're building a richer relationship with themselves and understanding what it is that they need and want in this world. And they're honoring their connections with other people. Right? So those people they're light, they're exploring the possibilities. They're experiencing the good stuff in life and there's also the hard stuff, but at least they've got the good stuff. Right? And then you can look at people who gave up. And I say that because I was one of those people, right? There was a time in my life that I'd given up, that I was really just like, if this is what there is, no, thank you. It is not what there was. But because I really felt like I already knew everything I need to know, I just needed people not to be shits.
Exactly. If people weren't so dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. People would just be nicer to me and I would get some luck, then everything would be fine, right? I was just going to stay exactly where I was, being exactly who I was, and something was supposed to come in and magically change me.
Mhm.
That was never going to happen. But I didn't know that. And the fact that I didn't know that doesn't make me wrong or bad. And it doesn't make you wrong or bad. It just means that we were raised in a society that doesn't equip us for a full, enriching, expanding life adventure.
I like that. Life adventure. Yeah, I was a teacher. That's one of the professions where, oh, you're a teacher, you're going to do that until you die. I used to joke that I'll be out there, with my walker on the field blowing my whistle.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm just working to get through the day.
Mm.
Basically a weekend drunk, and then I become a parent and I'm like, okay, well, I got to keep this job because now I'm a parent and kids cost a lot of money. Yeah, and we have to consciously choose something different. I couldn't I couldn't live like that anymore. I had to choose something. I didn't even know. We laugh about this all the time, and we probably say it at least once in every show. People don't even know what joy is anymore. I was at a point where I didn't even know what joy was. I was surrounded by things that I should have been feeling joyful about, but because I numbed the bad feelings, I numbed the good feelings too. And I was too numb to even realize.
Mhm.
So in this, I feel like that's why I call it an awakening, because yeah, I felt the crappy shit, but I also started feeling joy. I also
Mhm.
started feeling happiness again.
Mhm.
And that is what I choose. I choose that every single day. It doesn't mean I don't have hard times. It doesn't mean I don't have challenges. Hard times and challenges tell me I'm still growing,
Mhm.
and I am open. It's when, I feel like for me, it's if I'm living life and thinking, well, I'm done. I'm done. I'm healed. That's when I know ego's driving my bus again.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. You can't run out of growth of things to learn, of wisdom to gain, of experiences in this, in this universe, in this world of ours. Um, in fact, a lot of times people compare it to a video game, right? Where you get to the end of one level and you're like, boop, you go up to the next level and it's like a whole new set of things. And it
Mhm.
really, if you can get into that game sort of mentality, it can become fun where you're like, oh, I get to learn all new things about myself and I get to explore, and experiment and find out what's even more fun for me and share more of what I learned on the last level
Mm.
or the last levels with people who are, currently navigating that.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because when I started all this, it was almost 10 years ago. Maddie was 8 or 9, and I
Mhm.
was explaining all of this to her and about how when you learn these lessons, then you blah 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 blah, and more lessons come in, and she's like, "Oh, so it's like a video game. You level up." I was like, "Well, yeah."
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is that that's not happenstance. Like the internet where consciousness is connected or where information data packets run and we can communicate from our, box here. We can communicate with any box in the world. Like the reason it's set up like that is because that's the way reality is. The reason the video games get created the way they do is because everything mirrors the reality of what's happening within us. That saying, as above, so below. It's like we can only create mirrors or models to demonstrate what is.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll make you look at life a little differently.
Yeah, that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to express what is. Like we're
Mhm.
trying to express our sense of our reality. And so of course the truth, that essence is in everything, right?
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's masked or it's distorted. Oftentimes it can be distorted, but if we look at everything and recognize, oh, there's an element in truth in that, and how do I know? Because it can't be here unless there's an element of truth.
Send that one home. It
Yeah.
can't be here unless there's an element of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having difficulty picking it out, ask,
Yeah.
please show me the truth.
Yeah.
Show me the truth in this experience.
Yep. Yeah. If you think of the yin and yang symbol,
Mhm.
right? There's the black um, and the white. And in the center of the white, which is the light, the positive, the expanding, the physical form, in the middle of that is the black, is the black dot, right? It needs the black in order for the white to exist. They play off from one another, right?
Mhm.
But also the black is the potential. It hasn't taken shape yet. It's what could be, but there couldn't be that potential without the light in the middle of it giving it life. It's sort of like if you're on the beach and you imagine that all of the grains of sand are what you have to build with. They're the light, right? You can build whatever you want from that, but you're still building it out of the same basic building materials. That's all there is. You can't build a sand castle, even an ugly sand castle, out of something other than sand. I know. Sometimes I go down these rabbit holes and it's like, oh, please stop.
No, no, that's perfect because yeah. You can't build a sandcastle without sand.
You can't. And you can't have a physical reality without the light that creates that physical reality. So even the dark things, even the scary things, even the hard things at their basis are the light or they wouldn't be existing.
Yes, and we were talking prior to the show that this is how I'm interpreting it now. That basically zone 1 and zone 2 is us running from our shadows,
Mhm,
running from the dark, not being willing to turn and look at it.
mhm.
And zone 3, we stop, we turn, and we look. And the longer we look at it, the less scary it is. because,
Yes.
and you made a point of this when we were talking earlier, when you seek the truth shows itself,
Hmm.
and it will show itself in layers.
Yes.
In layers. So, Kris, you want to talk a little more about that?
Yeah. Let me think of an example. Let's take an example of a divorce, right? You get divorced and you leave your relationship, and initially it's like, oh, I got divorced. People say, why'd you get divorced? Because he, blah 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 blah. End of statement. Well, some years later, you see some other people in a relationship, and you notice that they're kind of behaving the way you and your ex-husband used to behave. And you notice that, oh, I don't think she's being very nice to him, right? There's a layer. It's like, and in that moment, you're probably not going to connect it to yourself and say, I wonder if I wasn't very nice to him. But you're going to notice it. You'll just notice, like, oh, maybe in a relationship that's not working between two people, maybe both people are playing a role.
Hmm.
Is that possible? I mean, you start having that demonstrated to you in places, right? And then you come into a situation where um, maybe somebody flat out tells you, like, you're doing this,
Hmm.
right? And there's another layer where you're like, and your first thing is, I'm not, right? You're going to defend yourself. But then you've got this seed from before, and you start thinking, am I? Like, I don't want to know that about myself. And this is the hard thing. This is what makes it shadow. I don't want to know that sometimes I'm mean,
Hmm.
right? But everybody has a shadow, and sometimes all of us are mean. We have the potential to be mean, right? So we're going to ask ourselves, is it possible? And the only answer we can ever say that's truthful is yes, it is possible. Yes, it is possible that I was mean. It is possible that I was wounded. It is possible that I was feeling defensive, right? It is possible. And then we can start to explore that, but take some time to get used to that very shocking idea. Like I was telling Judy earlier that I always used to say, but I'm such a nice person. I'm such a good person. Like I just, why won't this go my way, or why won't that go my way? Because I was very selectively looking at the things that I wanted to look at and ignoring the things that I didn't want to look at. And until I was willing to own the whole package of me, I couldn't really love the whole me because I didn't know the whole me. I was looking at the cartoon version of me I'd created in my head instead of the real version. And the real version, all of the shadow parts, they needed my acceptance. And with my ownership, I mastered them, which means the meanness isn't happening without my awareness, which means it's not happening, right? I actually choose to be kind and respectful. Integrity is so important to me. So I have this whole internal process, this whole internal conversation about, is this an integrity? Is this okay? Before I take the action. And sometimes when I'm saying something, I'm thinking, is this okay? And if it's not, I'm like, I'll stop and back up and be like, okay, what was that about? But it's not that I'm just ignoring or denying anything that I don't want to know about myself, which is what we do until we're willing to say, yeah, at times, if I'm functioning in this world and I haven't done a whole lot of healing, you can be sure I've got some manipulative, passive aggressive, sometimes outwardly aggressive behaviors that I've adopted because our world is full of them.
Yeah, it's so funny because as you're talking, I started writing down, if I am willing, because we always talk about the inner bully and the inner critic, if I am willing to be verbally abusive to myself, would I do the same to others?
There you go.
And if you're, just like you can't love yourself until love others until you love yourself, it's the same thing. If you're being disrespectful, verbally abusive to yourself, 9 times out of 10, you're doing it somewhere, whether
Mhm.
it's with the family animal, the pet, or other people, or rage, whatever. I'm hearing, yes, most definitely. And
Yeah.
one of the biggest ways it played out with me, I heard, was sarcasm.
Mhm.
I would sarcastically say shit that
Yes.
was not nice, that
Yeah.
was not, not kind, and um, smart assy.
Mhm.
I was also told by my father, you can pretty much say anything you want as long as you say it with a laugh.
Mhm.
So, you know, self deprecating humor. There you go. Would I lay that on other people through sarcasm? I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And this is the reality that I'm coming to live, alive,
There you
with
go.
all right now. So,
Yes, still alive, which is good.
yes. So, if anyone's out there that I was shitty to in the past and passively sarcastic and hurt your feelings, I apologize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Hmm.
Likewise. I mean, that is the thing right there. That's the essence, is like when we realize, first of all, it makes us less prickly about other people's behavior
Hmm.
because we realize a lot of it's unconscious. It's the way they're operating inside their own head. And there's a fine line about when somebody's just projecting their unhappiness onto you and they're going to be biting, saying those biting things.
Hmm.
And when they're actually trying to power over you, when they're trying to get you to do something or to submit to their will, that's a fine line because somebody might just say something in passing that's meant to, knock you down a notch because maybe they feel like you're a little above them, frankly. So they
Hmm.
want to knock you down a little bit because it makes them feel better. Um, but if they're really trying to like power over and control you, that's something where it's really important to stand up for yourself, practice your kindness and respect with yourself, and just be like, no, thank you. Right? Like not to take it personally, not to be to realize, yeah, that's them trying to control me, but that trying to control me is coming from a place of unconscious pain. It's not nobody who's in their heart is thinking, "Gee, how can I control this person and make their life hell and make myself feel just a little bit taller?"
Exactly.
Only someone who's wounded is in that space.
Yeah. And the more we pull out of survival mode and spend less time there, we can clearly start to see when other people are in zone 1 and zone 2.
Mhm.
And, basically what Kris is saying is don't take it personally. Understand where they are. And yes, it can be difficult, but understand where they are. Give them grace, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And,
And
and I
oh,
just
go
have to
ahead.
talk about this book, The Four
Oh,
Agreement,
yeah.
which is a great way to stay within that frame, or creating your frame, because the second agreement is don't take anything personally.
Mhm. Yeah,
Don't take anything personally. It will change.
absolutely. Yeah, and realizing that we were talking about this last night in class, that if things come up, if discussions come up and you get emotional and you attack somebody or you react to the bait, so to speak,
Mhm.
you're going to invite that kind of situation to come again.
Yeah, it's the pattern. Old patterns are on their way out. So, like Kris said, it's like you're being tested. Are you really ready to give up this pattern, or are you going to take the bait, and jump back in?
Yeah.
So, sit in that space of it's not personal. It's not about me. Do your internal questioning.
Hmm.
And, if you need some reinforcement and some help, watch some past shows.
Yeah.
That's a great segue because we're running out of time. But we wanted to let you all know for the next couple of weeks, we're going to run some replay shows because we're going to revamp the format of the show. And when we come
Mhm.
back, we'll have something different. We're
Mm.
choosing something different.
Yes, we are exploring and experimenting.
That is
Yeah.
exactly what we will be doing for your entertainment, education, pleasure.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yes, again, if you would like to support the cause, please go to peacefulempowermentworks.org and check out our website and make a donation. We would really appreciate that. We thank you for your support. And I guess we shall say farewell for a little while.
Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you, Kris.
Thank you, Judy.
And we'll see y'all on the flip side.
Sounds good. Still alive. Still alive.
Still alive.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.